Hello there. Welcome back to another episode of Mr. Johnson's Math Class. Let's discuss consecutive integer word problems. First, we need to understand what it means to be consecutive integers. Consecutive integers are integers that follow a sequence. For example, you could have 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. Those are consecutive integers because they increase by 1 each time. Now let's look at consecutive even integers. So consecutive even integers are integers that also follow a sequence, but their sequence is going to go 2, 4, 6, 8, so on and so forth. Those increase by 2 each time. And then you have consecutive odd, which would be 1, 3, 5, 7. These also increase by 2 each time. And it's important to note these increase by 2 every time, just like consecutive even integers, because making sure we understand that is going to help with how we set these up. So speaking of how to set up and solve, let's look at that. So to set these up, the first thing we're going to do is define our variables. And usually we're going to use n for our variable. Second thing we're going to do is write the equation. Third, we're going to solve the equation that we write. Fourth, we've got to state the answer. And when doing that, we have to make sure that we answer the question. And the last thing that we do, of course, you probably guessed it, we're going to check our answer. So let's walk through a couple of examples. So this says the sum of 2 consecutive integers equals 5. First, you notice this word here, sum. So the first thing I'm going to do is define my variables. I have my first integer and my second integer. And I know this because it says 2 consecutive integers. My first one I'm just going to call n. And since it's 2 consecutive, that's just right in a row. And you might remember from up here where we said that's like 1, 2, 3, 4. So this was like saying n plus 1. Now the next thing that I'm going to do, write my equation. So the equation for this, since it says sum, I'm adding these two. I'm adding the first integer plus the second integer. And when you add those together, they should equal 5. So this is like saying n plus m plus 1. If we just substitute up here, now combine your like terms. 2m plus 1 equals 5. Solve the equation. So n equals 2. So our first integer is 2, and our second integer is 3. So the two integers would be 2 and 3. All right, for the next one here, find the sum again. So we're adding 3 consecutive even integers. So this is really important here, that we are now doing 3 consecutive even integers. So we have the first term, second term, and third. I'm going to call the first one n. Remember, these increase by 2, so this is like saying n plus 2, and then n plus 4. So now when I add all these together, so I'll have n plus m plus 2 plus m plus 4, and that equals 18. So now when you add all these together, we get 3n plus 6 equals 18. Subtract 6 on both sides. 3n equals 12. So the first number is 4. And remember, we're only looking for even. So it's the list of even numbers. So we have 4, 6, and 8. Right now it says find the sum of 3 consecutive odd integers. So I'm going to set this up just like I did the previous ones. I have a first, a second, and a third integer. This is n. Now a common mistake is when students see this odd, they like to do n plus 1, but it's actually n plus 2, because odd integers also jump by 2 each time. So the sum of these, if we did n plus 2 plus n plus 4, negative 105, add all that together, 3n plus 6 is negative 105. Subtract 6. 3n is negative 111. Keep going, divide 3. And n is negative 37. Now be careful when you plug these back in, because that negative is going to mess you up if you're in a hurry. This is actually negative 35, and then negative 33. So a couple of important things to remember. Even integers and odd integers increase by 2 each time. And that's consecutive, even and odd. We probably should point that out. So consecutive, even and odd increase by 2 each time. And a lot of times you'll see the word sum. Just remember that means to add. And always plug back in and check your answer. Thanks a lot for tuning in, my friends. I hope to see you soon.